Welcome back to Embodied Existence. This is our second session, and in this session today, we will be exploring our breath. This is one of my favorite layers out of all of the 5 layers, if you can choose a favorite, because our breath is what carries our communication. It's not the only aspect of this layer, but today in this class, I'd really like to hone in on our voice. The breath is what allows us to make noise and to communicate with ourselves and with others. And specifically in this class today, I invite you to be honest and open and let your needs be known. And sometimes we don't know what we need. And in this class today, you have the opportunity to tune into what your needs may be for this season of life and how it is best to communicate those needs. So to get started, I invite you into any seated shape. I have my bolster here that I'm going to sit on, as well as a blanket to support my knees. And I like sitting like this because if you see here, my feet aren't actually on the blanket. The blanket is just here for my knees to land on. So you could sit like this if you want to, but you don't have to. You can sit in any way that feels supportive to your body. So with that, as you're ready, you might find a seated shape and start to tune in. Starting with our body first. Our very first layer out of the 5. Last week we did lots of body scans and sensation searches, and so just for these next couple breaths, can you start here in this first layer? Scanning through your body and just noticing how you feel. How do your muscles and your bones feel? And then you might shift your awareness to your breath. This is where you might simply watch your breath move in and out without forcing it to change. In this layer, our breath layer, which is called our Pranamaya layer. And last week, our physical layer is our Anandamaya layer. So in our breath layer, our Pranamaya layer, yes, it contains our breath, contains our ability to communicate. And even on a deeper level, this layer also contains our endocrine system, so our hormones, our nervous system, and other systems of the body, including the digestive system, lymphatic system, and so forth. And today, as we tune into our voice, allowing that to be our focus, I offer you a simple affirmation for class today, if you'd like to use it. And it is, I let my needs be known. I let my needs be known. And if you aren't sure what your needs are today in this season of life, we'll have some opportunity to tune in to what those might be and provide a little bit of clarity. With your next inhale, I invite you to find a little bit of spaciousness in your spine. Perhaps that might be by the spine, floating up, maybe creating a little bit of space in between each vertebrae. And with your exhale, option to drop your chin down toward your chest. You could allow your head to grow heavy here. Observing what it feels like in the back of your neck, maybe even in the back of the heart. You might stay here at center, or if you want, you could rock your head from side to side. We'll be here for another 4 or 5 rounds of breath. Noticing this sense of opening, expansion that's taking place in your neck. For one last breath. And the next time your head is at center, your chin is at center, you might slowly start to lift the head, coming back to where we began. Taking a breath to allow these changes to settle. You might even roll into the shoulders or move the neck in more of a organic, intuitive way. Option to take a cleansing breath in through the nose. Maybe you sigh it out. And with your next inhale, you might start to reach your arms straight out ahead of you, kind of like you're holding something in between your hands. And we'll breathe in at center. And as you exhale, you might, it's kind of like you're pulling back a bow, like a bow and arrow with your right hand. And then reaching back all the way so that you end up in this open twist. And exhale back to center. Opening at your own pace, taking a couple more. Last one. Coming back to our beginning point, breathing in. Exhale. Maybe you switch sides. You might even notice if one side is more willing to open than another. And if so, that's okay. We'll take our last one here. And then right back to center. Option to reach your arms up. Big stretch through the spine, maybe even reaching one arm up and then the other, kind of like you're like climbing a rope. Just getting a little bit of action in the side body, a little bit of opening, and then releasing down as you're ready. A couple options for our next shape. If it feels okay for your body to roll your shoulders back and clasp your hands back behind you. You might even try it and see, okay, how does my body feel here? If this feels okay, option to take your clasped hands, and I'll show you a second option if this isn't okay, but here's option 1. You can take your clasped hands and move them over to the right side of your body. And then inhaling at center and exhale, your head would drop to the same side as your hands. So my hands are to the right side of my body, and my right ear is dropping to my right shoulder. If having your hands clasped is absolutely not an option, you can release that clasp and simply bring your right ear down to your right shoulder. Option to even reach your left hand away if you would like a little bit of a different sensation. So wherever you're at, you can choose what's best for you. As always, whatever you do with your body is your choice. I'm just here to provide options. Can we take another 2 rounds of breath here and notice that even though our body is still and probably unmoving, our breath continues to move on its own. If you feel that you are complete here and you're ready to leave this shape, I'll meet you back at center. And we'll just pause here in the middle for a couple breaths, observing any changes in the left side of the body compared to the right. And if you're ready to move on to the next side, again, option 1, you can clasp your hands back behind you. Maybe you even change the cross of your clasp. So if you're not sure which way that is, go ahead and just clasp your hands. Whichever way you naturally do it is probably how you did it the first time. And then you can just change so that your other thumb is on top if you want to, just to keep it kind of fresh. And then if you're following the side that I'm on, you could take your clasped hands over to the left side of your body or skip the clasp. And then breathing in at center and exhaling to allow the left ear to come down toward your left shoulder. And we'll be here for another 5 rounds of breath. However, you always reserve the right to adjust or change whatever pose you're in, or leave sooner, or stay longer. I celebrate your choices here. By you making choices for your body here in this class, that is you communicating your needs. Starting to find completion if you are ready, and coming back to center. If you want to roll through your shoulders or move through your wrists, option to do so. And we'll just pause to feel and notice. Perhaps you shift your awareness to your breath if it isn't already. Simply watching your breath move in and out. Perhaps your breath has changed in just these first few moments of class. Last breath here. I invite you to take a few cactus arms with me, and we'll pair it with lion's breath. So lion's breath, we'll do 3 of them, and it is this very big exhale, this unencumbered, like you can even stick out your tongue and really allow your breath and your voice to intermingle to make this organic sound. So what we'll do is we'll breathe our arms up. And then as we exhale, you can drop your elbows, kind of like you're making like a goalpost with your arms. It'll be cactus arms. And you can even draw your heart space forward, really allowing your throat to come forward as you exhale. All right, so we'll take 3 of those. So when you're ready, we'll take 1 inhale and exhale together just to kind of find our beginning. And don't be afraid to make noise here. And as you breathe in, we'll reach the arms up. Inhale, reach up. And again. Last one, breathe in. And exhale. You can observe what that was like for you. Maybe it felt really awkward. Maybe it felt empowering. Whatever your experience was, there's no right or wrong. When you're ready to move on from this spot, you could meet me in a tabletop shape, perhaps even using a blanket underneath your knees to provide a little bit of support. And when we come into this tabletop, you'll have an opportunity to find some organic movement, or if you prefer sticking to a cat-cow, that's also a choice. So coming into a tabletop of your choosing, adjusting it to suit your body, you might begin to simply move organically. No agenda, no rules. Just feeling into your body. Maybe your legs would appreciate a little bit of a stretch after being in a seated shape for a minute. Or as always, you could inhale and drop the spine down. Maybe open the throat a little bit more than usual. And then exhale, curl it in. So you choose. And we'll be here for the next 4 rounds of breath. I let my needs be known. Or if it feels more true, you might say, I am learning to let my needs be known. Last breath. Slowly starting to come back to center. And the option to find a child's pose, allowing the toes to touch back behind you. Maybe letting your forehead come to the mat, or turning your face to the side if you prefer to keep your gaze open. Three breaths here. As we continue moving through class today, I really encourage you, and I remind you of your power, that you have the right to choose. And that by you choosing what you do or do not want is an expression of you putting your needs first in this moment, of honoring what your capacity may or may not be. So can you give yourself permission to make adjustments, to choose the option that works for you, to let your needs be known? Option to stay here in child's pose, or you might rock yourself forward, perhaps taking your hands a little bit ahead of you, tucking your toes, and maybe you press up for a downward facing dog. We'll take about 5 breaths here to just kind of feel into it. You might pedal out your feet. You might take your stance wider by taking the feet as wide as the mat. Last 1 or 2 breaths. Option to take a cleansing breath in and out, making noise if you want to. Breathing in through the nose. And if you're ready to shift out of this down dog, you could bend your knees, take your gaze forward, and start inching your feet up closer to your hands. If you are in child's pose and you're ready to meet me in a forward fold, I'll meet you here whenever you get there. As always, you can adjust your stance. You can change this to suit your needs. With your next inhale, you might join me for a halfway lift. Hands can be connected to the floor, the shins, or maybe even the quads, as we find some space through the spine. And then an exhale to let it go. Maybe you float back down into the fold. To inhale and rise, you can bend into your knees, root down and press yourself up. I'll meet you at standing whenever you get here. Option to allow the hands to float down to heart center. You might adjust your feet and your stance as needed. Taking just a moment to adjust to this orientation. You're ready to release. You might let the hands go. And stepping to the top of our mat, you might step your right foot back. We're setting up for warrior 1. So, a couple different ways we can do this. If your hamstrings are feeling very tight, you might take your front foot and walk it to the very edge of your mat. So my left foot is forward. I'm gonna walk it all the way over to the left side of my mat. My back foot is gonna be towards the right side edge of my mat. And maybe your right foot is kind of at an angle. If warrior 1, when we start to lunge down into our front knee, if you're feeling tight, like I am, my hip flexors are definitely feeling tight, you might take a few moments to feel into your body, maybe lunging in and lengthening out. Option to place your hands maybe on your hips or even on your leg muscles and just tune into this opening that you can take some time creating. You don't have to do it all at once. Another 2 or 3 breaths of exploration. If this shape is really not welcome to your body today, a second option would be to come up onto the ball of your back foot, maybe even lunging into your back knee for a high crescent lunge, noticing that you can kind of sink down and rise back up. So it's your choice. All right. Option to find some stillness, lunging into your left knee. If you're in warrior 1, you might really engage your back muscles to lengthen through your back leg. Can you feel the strength in your body here? Option to inhale and reach your arms up overhead. And take 3 lion's breath with me if you'd like, or if you want to skip the lion's breath, you could simply take the cactus arms. So breathing in, reaching up, exhale. Two more at your own pace. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale. You can bring the hands down if you're ready to start to pivot over to the right so that we end up with both feet facing forward. Nice wide stance here. Inhaling, reaching up at your own timing. So if you're not ready, you can take your time. And then exhale. Maybe you lean over to one side, using your hand on your leg to support you, and just leaning over. Only reaching as far as you want to. This isn't about how far you can go. This is about what kind of state of embodiment are you in when you get there. Last breath. Inhale to rise if you're ready to. Exhale, take it on the other side. One more breath. And inhale to rise. All right, let's keep turning around. This time our right foot steps forward. You might need to adjust your stance. If you really enjoyed the wider stance on the previous side, you take the right foot all the way to the right side edge, left foot to the left edge of the mat. Remember, you can be in warrior one here. This is option 1. Or come onto the ball of your back foot for high crescent lunge. And let's take about 3 or 4 breaths, just feel our way in to this shape. And we will be taking lion's breath on this side as well. This will be our last round. And if you haven't done it already, if you haven't given yourself permission to make noise, to be loud, to allow yourself to be heard, I really encourage you, if you feel okay, if you feel safe enough to try it just once, I really encourage you to try it. You don't have to sound pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't exist, right? This is just about tapping into your breath and your voice. So if you're ready to find stillness, you might sink into your warrior 1 or your high crescent lunge. And inhale, reach your arms up. Here we go, lion's breath. 2 more. Last one. Inhale. Coming back to center, turning all the way around, bringing your hands to the earth, stepping one foot back and then the other, and your choice here if you'd like to take a high plank or release the knees to the floor for a low plank. But wherever you are, I invite you to lower down into your stomach and pressing into your hands as you inhale. You might find a cobra, opening up through your heart space and maybe even lifting the chin a little bit, opening up through the throat. And then as you exhale, you could press into your hands, shift yourself back. Maybe you find a child's pose, or maybe you tuck the toes, lift the hips for a down dog. You choose. What does your body need? What does your heart need? How can you meet your need in this moment? And can you be honest with yourself about what you need? Don't force yourself to do something that you don't want to do just because you think you should do it? Is this choice that you're making in alignment with what is truly needed in this moment for you? If you are in down dog, you might take one more breath here. And then you might release it and find a child's pose. How's your breath moving here? Maybe your breath has naturally deepened or expanded. Maybe it's accelerated. Can you feel in your body where your breath is moving the most? And if you're not sure how to find that, you might watch your inhale. Start at your nostrils. As you breathe in and the air travels down your esophagus and into your lungs. And notice where in your chest or ribs or stomach, where in your body does this inhale create the most movement? Maybe you can feel your stomach pressing against your legs as you inhale. And as you exhale, you might watch your air move right back up and out. One more breath here. If you feel complete in this shape, you might begin to lift your head, walk your hands back, and begin to move into a supported heart and chest opener called fish pose. And there's a couple different ways you can come into it. If you have a bolster, that might feel very welcome. If you don't have a bolster, then fear not, because we have another option. If you don't have a bolster, go ahead and take a blanket or a beach towel and roll it up. So here I'm going to start in this square position with my blanket, and then I'm just going to roll it up just like this. And then you would place it, instead of the bolster, you would place it on your mat. And once you have whatever prop you're going to use, running the length of your mat, you could turn away from it. And I usually like to have a little bit of space. So I like to be able to pass my hand in between me and the bolster. And you don't have to, but once you come into it, you might notice that the closer you are to your bolster or blanket, the more of a lower back bend it's going to be, and that's not necessarily the focus or intention of this shape. The focus is more in the thoracic spine and cervical spine, or not so much cervical actually. I guess it's really just all thoracic. Okay, So you can settle back down onto your prop. If you have the blanket that you're using and it doesn't support your head, if you have a second blanket or towel or a block, you might slide that underneath your head so that your cervical spine and skull is supported. And you might start here with your feet planted on the floor. If your lower back is feeling a little funky, option 2, press your feet into the floor, lift your hips, and kind of readjust your lumbar spine. And you could just keep your feet planted on the floor here. This is a great place to be. Or if you want to, you might extend your legs out long. If this feels like a very exposed shape for you, option to drape a blanket over your body to provide a little bit of covering, a little support. As we begin to settle in here, I invite you to come back to this awareness of your breath and watching it move your body. So now that we're here in stillness again, which you don't have to stay in stillness. If at any point you need to move your body, you absolutely can. But if you are in stillness, notice that even here you are still moving because your breath is traveling in and out of your body. And we'll be here for the next few minutes, probably about 2 minutes or so, maybe 2.5. So if you need to adjust, please make sure that you feel supported here. And as we're here, watching our breath move in and out, if you'd like to add some conscious direction to your breath, you might start by just adding a little bit of breath to your next inhale so that your next breath is just a little bit deeper. Or if you want to just stay with your natural breath, that's also an option. With your next exhale, you might exhale just a little bit more air than your previous exhale. And if you'd like to join me for a 3-part breath, option to exhale your air out. And with your next inhale, breathing in through your nose and maybe directing your breath down into the very bottom portion of your lungs. Taking your time as you exhale out. There's no rush. The slower, the better. See if you can exhale out that very bottom portion of your lungs. And then taking all of the time in the world, you might return to your next inhale. Breathing down all the way to the very bottom portion of your lungs. You might even notice if your ribs expand a little bit more before you take your time letting your air go. Exhaling just a little bit more air if it feels okay. Option to take a few more breaths just like that at your own pace. You could allow the breath to return back to normal after your next exhale. Maybe taking a little bit of time here to just notice any effects of this breath practice or of this shape. We'll be here for one more breath. If you are ready to move on from this shape and your legs are extended, you might start to draw them in, planting the feet on the floor, and being mindful and moving slowly. You might start to roll to one side and move your bolster or blanket out of the way. And then return to your back. Option to pull the knees in toward the chest, maybe wrapping your arms around your knees. Perhaps rocking from side to side. And if it feels maybe relieving to your spine or just welcome, option to inhale and curl yourself inward toward a ball. And then exhale, letting go. We'll begin to set up for our time of rest, our Shavasana. So if you would like to stay here on your back, maybe supporting your lower back by putting a bolster underneath your knees or a blanket. As always, you could lie on your side, your stomach, you could stay seated, you could take the legs up the wall. It's really your choice, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, so long as you feel supported in this time of rest. And I will be guiding us through a little meditation as we come into it. So take your time setting up, coming into the shape of your choice. Grabbing any props you desire. And then when you arrive, into whatever resting shape you've chosen. You might begin by taking a conscious breath in and letting it go. Maybe scanning through your body, making any last adjustments needed. And in your mind's eye, I invite you to imagine that there is a blank piece of paper in front of you. Next to this blank piece of paper is a pencil. And this blank piece of paper is giving you the opportunity and the request to write down what it is that you need in this season of life in 3 areas. And on this piece of paper, you write down body. You underline it, and underneath this area, you write down what it is that you need in this season to support your body. You might allow the first thing that comes into your mind to be what you explore, allowing this organic process to unfold. You don't have to figure out how you're going to meet this need. But in this moment, can we simply acknowledge what your need is for your body in this season? You can write down one thing, or maybe more than one thing. Using up as much space as you want. And acknowledging what your need is for your physical body. And then when you are complete and done writing, you move that paper to the side. And there in your mind's eye is a new, second, fresh sheet of paper. And here, you write down your heart. And you underline it. And you repeat the same process as you ask yourself, what does my heart need in this season? Maybe your heart needs many things. And you can write down as much or as little as you want. And then once you have finished writing your heart needs for this season, you move even this paper to the side, and before you there is a third and fresh sheet of paper. And here you write down mind. What does your mind need in this season? Writing down whatever it is that comes to mind. Knowing that you are not judged for any of these needs. You can write down whatever you want. This is just for you. And then after you are done writing down your needs for your headspace and your mind in this season, the 3 sheets of paper, your body, your heart, your mind, are there in front of you as you look over each one. Can you find one need that you can ask for help with from somebody else? Whether this is a paid service or help from a family member or a friend, or perhaps resourcing nature or anything else. What is one need you can select that you can ask for help with? Can you bring that to the front of your mind? And then searching through again, you might find a need that can be filled in a community setting. So perhaps this is your family of origin, or maybe another group or community that you're a part of and attend. What is one need that can be filled by a larger community as a whole? And finally, searching one more time, looking through your needs and asking yourself, what is one need that I can fill myself, that I can resource myself with? Perhaps this occurs by prioritizing something or giving yourself permission to pursue something, or to say no to something else so that you can say yes to what you really need. What is one need that you can fill yourself? And after you have that, you take the 3 pieces of paper in front of you and fold them up and put them in your pocket, knowing that you can tend to any of these other needs as you desire or when it's appropriate. And then you begin to come back into this place on your mat, noticing where your body is touching whatever is supporting you, as we begin to shift into a time of rest. And we'll be here for the next 3 minutes where I will be quiet. And even though I am quiet, I'm still here with you, and I'll keep track of the time. If you are not done in this time of rest, you do not have to leave. You can stay here until you feel complete. And if you are ready to add some movement back into your body, you might do so in any way that feels right to you. In your own timing, you might begin to press yourself up, coming into a seated shape of your choice. Maybe even bringing your hands together at heart center. And I invite you to bring to mind the affirmation we used in class today, which is, I can let my needs be known. Or, I am learning to let my needs be known. Option to join me for a collective breath, starting by exhaling your air out and breathing in together. I invite you to keep those needs that you discovered within yourself during meditation today at the front of your mind and heart this week, and look for ways to see that they can be met. Maybe just one is all that we have capacity for in this season, and if so, that's a great place to start. I hope that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Thank you.